Clara was an ordinary young woman, but her life was marked by tragedy. Unemployed, lonely, and drowning in mounting debt, everything seemed to be falling apart around her. She had lost her parents in a terrible accident, and ever since she felt as if she were destined for suffering. One night of despair, after wandering aimlessly through the city, Clara came across a hooded old man sitting in a square, smoking a pipe. His piercing gaze seemed to pierce her soul. Without understanding why, she approached. The man began to speak as if he already knew every detail of her life. He offered a way out of her problems. "I can give you everything you want. Money, power, even bring your parents back. All I ask is your soul." Clara hesitated. She knew the stories, the cautionary tales about pacts with the devil, but despair was greater than fear. "Yes," she murmured, almost not believing her own words. The man smiled, revealing jagged, pointed teeth, and then handed her a contract, which he had already signed with a drop of his own blood. She read it hurriedly, her mind clouded by the tempting offer. As soon as Clara signed the contract, she immediately felt an invisible weight. Something was wrong, but it was too late. The man vanished into thin air, and everything around her suddenly became icy. The next day, her life seemed like a dream. Money began to appear in her account. She was hired for her ideal job, and everything finally seemed to be coming together. But then, things began to change. Soon, Clara began to notice shadows in her house. At first, they were just fleeting figures in the corner of her eye, but soon the shadows took shape. Voices whispered her name in the night. Furniture moved on their own, and the photos from her childhood began to disappear one by one, until there was no memory of her life before the pact. It was then that her parents' presence began to torment her. They first appeared in her dreams, staring at her without saying a word. Their faces were distorted, with white eyes and sewn-together mouths. Clara woke up every night to the sound of cold laughter echoing through the room. The nightmares soon began to invade reality. She saw them in her house, standing in shadowy corners, always watching her with the same empty eyes. Clara's despair grew with each passing day, but there was no escape. The pact was sealed. One night, Clara woke to a strong smell of sulfur and the sound of slow, heavy footsteps in the hallway. When she got up, she saw the hooded figure of the man standing at the door. Only now he no longer looked like a man. His skin was pitch black, with horns emerging from his head and hands deformed like claws. "I have come to take what belongs to me," he said, in a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Clara tried to run away, but the door to her room closed by itself, locking her inside. The floor began to crack, and skeletal hands emerged from the shadows, grabbing her ankles. She tried to scream, but the sound seemed muffled, as if she were trapped in a deep well. The devil smiled again, his eyes glowing with indescribable evil. "What is given cannot be taken back," he whispered as the shadows began to envelop her. Her body was dragged down to the ground into the darkness. In the last second, before she disappeared completely, Clara understood the truth. There was no escape from her fate. She had sold her soul, and now she belonged to him for all eternity. Clara's house was found abandoned weeks later. There was no trace of her. Only the strong smell of sulfur and claw marks on the walls remained, along with whispers that still echoed through the house at night. They say that to this day, anyone who dares to approach her can hear her muffled screams and sometimes see her shadow trapped in the walls in an eternal search for freedom. But the pact was made, and she will never be free again.